Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Yet another go at 2100 GMT. And this time we're going to be talking to Dan and Eli, and both of them from DroneBase. And I can't say that too loudly in this house because I have 4 sons and 2 of them are called Dan and Eli. And I hope that they are both asleep right now. So if you guys have got an Adam and a Dan. No, we've had Dan. What's my other son's called? Joe. A Joe and an Adam. If you've also got a Joe and Adam working there, you've got my full set of 4 working there. Anyway,
there you go. We just have to hire a Joe and Adam, and or we can hire your son.
There you go. There you go. Was up, as Carl Liebenher says on the chat there. Good, indeed. That's crazy young talk. I don't know that sort of thing. And thanks, a shout out to Vu. Before we go any further, shout out to Vu from Phoenix LiDAR Systems for sending me a t-shirt. Thank you very much, and a sticker or 2. So DroneBase. All I really know about DroneBase is that in 2015 you were one of the first people to receive funding from Skyfund, which was DJI and Excel, I think it was, something like that. They're sort of cash sending arm. Tell me more about DroneBase before we talk about the AI side of things. What on earth is DroneBase and why do I need it? What's the point?
Of course, yeah, it's a great. Thank you so much for having us on here. And of course, so I mean, from a very high level, right? DroneBase is a platform for drone pilots. So we exist to give pilots what we call missions to fly with their drones. So we started our company to provide what we call professional missions to professional pilots. We then kind of created another category of more semi-professional or flexible missions for a wider range of pilots. Our first product, AirCraft, that is targeted at hobbyist pilots. I'd say if there was a central problem that we're trying to solve, it is that for most people who bought a drone, there's not enough to do with that drone, right? I mean, I think that's a constant complaint we hear all the time, right? I mean, and that's for us, that's anything from a professional pilot who really wants us to be their profession, but don't have a full book of business, to maybe someone here in the US that maybe they just got a Part 107 but don't know even how to get a commercial start. But candidly, I would wager that most folks bought a drone, flew it 3 or 4 times, and now it's kind of sitting on the shelf. And you're getting kind of angry looks from your wife or your husband at home saying, "Okay, you bought this thing, let's use it." So really, like that's what we exist to do, is to kind of DJI's made this great piece of hardware, and we want to make that hardware useful and make it kind of a daily people's professional, creative, and even fun lives.
And you use exclusively DJI equipment, I think, because that gives you a known. Is that right?
I mean, when we started, like, as you probably know, back in 2014, right? I mean, I was building kits, building other systems, using other systems. I mean, we just de facto use DJI products on virtually everything we do. We're built into their SDK only because it's really helpful to have an iPhone at this point, right? I mean, it's like we build software. To have an iPhone is fairly straightforward, to have that one kind of unified set of hardware tools where we can understand this is image quality, this is image resolution, this is metadata across countries or continents. It is helpful to have that one standard set of hardware.
Can you unpack those missions a little bit then? So how do you define a really professional to not quite so professional to a private mission then? Sorry, I deliberately with these hangouts, I deliberately don't ask people that are coming on questions because I like to see where it goes, dear viewer. If we have set questions, then it's always false and fake and it never flows. So can you unpack those little sort of mission subjects for me, please?
Yeah, of course, and I'll let Eli jump in too. But so it's essentially, you know, when DroneBase started, I mean, so I had been in the U.S. military, was in the Marine Corps, and just kind of saw this technology, you know, overseas, watched it computerize and miniaturize, and so had been in the kind of the commercial drone space since about 2012. Like I said, kind of wiring, soldering, lightly programming systems, taking them out to fly for various use cases. Really, like, we knew, I just basically drove around California and the western region of the US trying to meet the very early commercial drone operators. Maybe knew 30 or 40 companies that seemed like they wanted to use drone systems. And that's kind of where we started as a company. So we started with those professional missions for professional pilots. To your question, something we might think of as, so generally speaking, we're working with large enterprise customers. That could be in oil and gas, telecom, insurance. We're going to have, professional missions going to have a highly defined flight plan that may mix automated and manual flight. We're going to pass through coordinates, the flight plan, what image set and video set that flight plan should yield, points around, PPE, if you're going to a cell tower, just literal kind of, here's what you might expect. We'll probably have trained or onboarded you into our more technical verticals. And then via the DroneBase pilot app, we'll kind of let you know of an opportunity near you, and we'll dispatch you to that site to conduct that inspection or that flight.
Because a lot of those sort of more, as let's say the oil and gas, actually require a higher standard of qualification for just actually standing on the, or being on the site. You need to have done a lot of safety courses and stuff to get anywhere near. And of course, that's the advantage of the drone, is you don't have to need to get as near, but you still need to be quite qualified, I think, even just to get yourself onto the plot. So that's your professional sort of high professional end ones. What about one down then?
Sure. So I mean, like, when it was just kind of an insight we had, right? We started the company, Eli and I were in this small office, and we started offering these professional missions. We were really close to our pilot community and just the drone pilot community in general. And what we heard, and it was just interesting. So we started offering these professional missions, and literally we would just have pilots just showing up to our office, calling us, emailing us, saying, hey, this is great, but I want more. I want more to do. I bought 4 systems. I'm not flying enough. I really just want to get started. I want to do something. I want more stuff to do with my drone. And so in kind of 2016, category of flexible missions. And these are unlimited, simple. You can do them anytime. You can do an unlimited amount of them. Missions that missions that are more open-ended. So just for example, like, started having conversations with our pilots, and we said, we got so sick of hearing, give me something to do with my drone. We created this category for them, whereby essentially we said, we can't even promise we'll get you paid on every one of these, but if someone buys them, we'll also pay you. An example of that is we're partnered with Getty Images, the stock photography site. And so, I mean, you couldn't get much simpler than this, but you can just go take a 20-second drone video in the DroneBase pilot app. We give you a couple themes that they help us kind of sort through and select. You hit one button from our app, we do all the transcoding via our API, and that will then live on Getty site for sale. Video will share the revenue with the pilot.
That's amazingly speculative. How have you chosen because the world's quite big, isn't it? It's going to take a long time to get it all down. How did you make the choices? What is that, or is that part of your secret sauce? Perhaps don't say anything you don't want to.
Oh no, we're happy to be quite open.
Sure. What do you mean by choices?
Well, is it every 5th building on the street? Is it every 2nd tallest tree? Is it every other bridge? I mean, there's a big world out there.
So, like, specific to like a Getty Images, right? They have extremely nuanced intelligence on exactly what searches people are looking for, in their site. So I'd say, like, they have a huge need for 4K quality video, and they have very little inventory of it. So they will help us, from their kind of data scientists, they're literally bubbling up keyword after keyword after keyword of this is kind of exactly what we're looking for. And Eli maybe more technical.
Yeah, I mean, so like we're in pretty close communication with the people at Getty Images, and they're telling us like what is selling the most on their site. And their customers are looking for, first of all, aerial videos, which is what our pilot network is really, really good at, obviously. And secondly, like they're their customers are looking for aerial cityscape videos. So that's what we first started with. That was like our first theme. And we told pilots, this is actually kind of perfect because we have pilots that are located in lots of different cities all around the world. And we're just telling them, if you shoot a simple cityscape video, and a cityscape video does not necessarily involve a complex maneuver. Usually it's just like the drone that's flying forward or to the side for 15 to 45 seconds. And that's really all that it's required. They take the cityscape video, they upload it to us, Getty customers that are looking for that kind of video for their own purposes, like for marketing, for commercials, for TV, and things like that. If they purchase your video, then you make the royalty from it.
Oh, well, I suppose I've got to ask the question: what sort of money am I going to be this time next year? We're going to be millionaires. How much money will I make for that 15 seconds of video?
You want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's a range, right? I mean, actually, if you look at what Getty sells a 4K video for, it's typically in the mid hundreds of dollars. But they have many kind of subscription customers where it may be a smaller dollar amount, but maybe you kind of get paid month on month on month, and every time it sells, we'll obviously be splitting the revenue back with the pilot.
It's not as clear cut as you would think, because Getty sells a variety of plans to their customers. Like some customers pay for a flat rate subscription. Basically, they pay this monthly fee and then they get access to like a whole directory's worth of images and videos. In this case, if your video is included in this big bucket of videos, then you get a portion of that subscription that their customers pay. Yeah. On the other hand, like if you have a customer that pays for specifically your video, not the flat rate thing, but they're purchasing your video specifically, then your royalty amount goes up by a lot more.
But again, I think the point being kind of just what the insight we've had from the very beginning, just knowing pilots and spending time with pilots, is that there just is a tremendous capacity, still a very unfulfilled capacity, and just a real hunger to do more of this work. You have to offer some progression to pilots, right? There has to be some path from buying a DJI Spark in an Apple store to getting onto an oil and gas site 5 years later. I mean, a professional drone pilot's not made in the lab. You can't go to school for this, really, right? You can hardly read it in a book, although you can get some training, of course. But like that's what we've seen for 5 years ago. We were all just drone enthusiasts in a park together. We were all sort of both hobbyists and professional pilots, and trying to do this, as side work too. That's what we've seen. We want to make sure we have a thoughtful progression for pilots, right? Because we believe that like the professional pilots of 2-3 years from now, or maybe just getting started today.
Absolutely, and that sort of I can think of two breakout subjects from that. The first one, let's go back to the cityscape and say, how do you make sure that they are compliant, or is it just up to them that they're compliant with local rules and regulations? Got to get that elephant spoken to. Got to start eating that elephant. How do you ensure compliance?
So first of all, like when you go into our DroneBase pilot app, on the Getty page, there's a list of guidelines, specific requirements, like technical requirements for the video that you submit. It needs to be between 15 to 45 seconds in length. If it's less than 15 seconds, we'll automatically reject it. Like we have computer algorithms that will look for, the length of the video.
I think it means more compliance with airspace.
Sure. But I mean, that's like the first check, the technical requirements. After it gets past that step, then we do have like an internal QA team which looks at all the video to make sure that there's no like offensive behavior or something that's not a cityscape in there. So if you can get past that step, then we will submit it to Getty. And in most cases, like there is a QA system on Getty's side as well that looks for the content and makes sure that it's up to their quality standards.
Yeah, but I think specifically to kind of airspace, right? So I mean, to airspace compliance, right? I mean, so obviously baked into our pilot app are certainly like you're going to get certainly we're always checking the airspace that you're in via the DroneBase pilot app. So first check is just using our own internal system to let a pilot know, what airspace are you in? Are you in a no-fly zone now, or are you in unrestricted airspace? Or are you allowed to go here, right? We're working in conjunction. Obviously, using any DJI drone is going to come with some amount of their geo system and their kind of compliance piece as well. As I'm sure you know, is a bit of a patchwork country by country. We've had to learn, as I'm sure you have, more than we ever wanted to about, Australian and English and American and, Colombian drone laws. We actually strongly prefer probably where the English-speaking world is today, with fairly clear frameworks. This is a global technology, right? So, I mean, we have pilots, and we've completed missions in over 60 countries, have pilots in many more. So it's, if something comes in from a country where we're really unfamiliar with the laws, like we'll have to do some research to understand compliance there. But yeah, like within the US English speaking world, we're telling pilots what airspace they're in, checking that, screening that as kind of a first step, along with the hardware on the drone system. And
I forgot what I was going to say, but oh yeah, I remember now. But you have placed a lot of these missions, so I should imagine when you place a mission or put a tasking out for it, you check compliance before or airspace compliance before you place it.
Exactly. So I mean, we have so for our enterprise customers, they build into our API. We have kind of I think the only API for drone services, right? So when a large insurance customer would integrate with our API, they'll programmatically send us kind of hundreds of addresses a day. And we give them an instant airspace check, right? They're okay if we say no. They just want to hear about it right away. So we give them that instant airspace check. And until this, I mean, again, this is in the US. So we've been giving them the instant kind of thumbs up, thumbs down, and just kind of operating typically in the unrestricted Class G airspaces. However, with the FAA's new land system, that's actually quite encouraging to be able to have a programmatic way to check and clear airspace. That
so
will open up.
Have you got Lance, Lanks, English-speaking world? You don't spell Lance like that. Anyway,
I've heard it's pronounced Lance.
No, it is. No. That's exactly how that is exactly how they say it. But that's not how you spell it, and I don't like that. Anyway, it should be Lanks, and that's why they don't say that. But anyway,
yeah, the E is
have you already got that baked in? Is that baked into your system yet for the 48 airfields, I think it is, that that's running for?
Yeah, so so I think only 2 companies in the US are actually programmatically clearing that via the FAA now, and we're already built into one of those. And so yes, we're programmatically able to clear for those new airspaces that to get approvals for those, or just to get that ceiling, right? To get that approval up to 200 feet or 300 feet, depending on what that is. And that's honestly very encouraging. I think I give the FAA a lot of credit for that sort of technology focused and programmatic approach to clearing those airfields. I mean, as you know, it's like the airspace wasn't quite built out with these decentralized distributed systems in mind. So, if we're several miles away from Santa Monica Airport here in our office, if I'm 10 feet off of our roof and there's a plane in that airspace, we have bigger problems than our.
Well, I think all of these things are all going to be well and good, just as long as they don't end up being utterly pay to play, and that manned aircraft have to get out of the way as well. If I've booked in that little airspace slot, then everyone's got to play by the same rules. Otherwise, we're rather handcuffing the industry. But anyway, I wouldn't come to talk about that.
And I firmly second your point. Like, this does feel like a government database that we very much would encourage kind of free and fair and open access to all players. For that, I'd hate to see some regulatory capture where someone's kind of sitting over that layer. I think that's
yeah. Well, I think we can all see it, can't we? We can all see the traps. It's very difficult now. Ray Hessed's going to ask what stops a pilot. I'm looking at the comments now. Sorry. Can I ask what stops a pilot going directly to Getty Images? I understand that you're offering professionally offshore, etc. But content videos like Getty Shutterstop. Why would a pilot want to? Yeah. Why? All right then. Fair enough. Why would they want to go to you rather than going direct?
Yeah. I mean, again, fair question. Something we think about a lot. Like, again, we exist to give pilots missions to fly with their drones. We try to keep pilots flying their drones. Like, that's our focus, right? Anything that is tedious or painful or programmatic, we try to automate and make dead simple and easy for them. Specific to someone like Getty or other partners we have, like the Associated Press or Thomson Reuters, we try to take everything that is not flying the drone off the pilot's plate. So again, this is sort of inside baseball, but the drone videos are not transcoded and things that talk to a lot of big enterprises. We're doing all that transcoding and kind of getting the video prepared for their back end. We're tagging, labeling, doing a good amount of that back end work that you just hit literally one button and then it can go live on their site. And Eli, I don't know if you have any other kind of technical thoughts on that, but
yeah, I mean, also like there's sort of a science behind like selling these videos, and we are talking like with Getty pretty closely about, you know, how these videos get, what should pilots be shooting, and also not just Getty but other stock photography sites as well. We're trying to get a number of them on board, and so if a pilot submits a video to us, we will put it on the site that has the highest likelihood of selling it. So that's one advantage. Also, like you do have a good point. So pilots could go directly to Getty Images and become a contributor. There is an approval process though, which is somewhat tedious, and so you do have to kind of go over that barrier. To become a contributor. Then you have to handle all of your own transcoding. Then you have to figure out what theme to actually shoot, and then you have to start contributing the videos. So we try to like make it a little bit more streamlined for the pilots to get on board, like to get on DroneBase's platform and just simply like find out what the theme is and start shooting.
Yeah, and I think that always, you know, as a company, we always want to kind of by solving tedious problems, delivering value through software, making the pilot's life easier, and just keeping them focused on the highest value-added tasks they can do during a flight.
Also, if their primary motivation is to earn money off of this, you know, we are monitoring like how many missions a pilot does on the DroneBase platform, and if they start with the semi-pro missions like Getty, like the Getty missions, and if they've submitted a number of them to us, we will automatically know like this pilot is qualified, they have skills, and then we'll start sending them the pro missions. You know, these are the guaranteed payout missions.
Well, that's so sorry, Eli, but that leads very nicely into the next thing I was going to say about this. So it instantly struck me as you're speaking that you've got a sort of almost a training function there as well. So you could either call it monitoring, these people work hard, therefore we'll give them more work, or because if somebody keeps submitting, let's say one of these Getty videos, and every single one is awful because their propellers are out of balance and they're looking at the back of someone's head the whole time they're flying, even though they're, so you said you've got that filtering process. Have you got a gentle nudging, a gentle persuading in the right direction facility for people? Training.
I mean, yes, absolutely. I think that we'd always like again, any pilot who takes time to work with us, we'd always like to be at minimum. If we can't get them compensated, we'd love to at least pass them feedback, right, on how they could do better the next time. I think that in the professional mission context, those often come directly from the customer, right? And they'll give some insight and thought into how we did and how the pilot did in terms of something like a more creative drone flight. We or Getty or someone else with a really professional eye will give us a sense of why this was framed well or why it was not framed well. As much as possible, like to pass that feedback back to our pilots. And like Eli said, there's just a great way to kind of vet and verify and help folks kind of level up from, okay, I got my 107, I passed my TSA background check, I have my Phantom 4 Pro, but there's a skill component here, right, that needs to be developed over time.
Yeah, I can't. I probably couldn't do either, but I reckon I could have a better go. I'd have more of an understanding of your professional missions than I would of any artistic thing, because I cannot take a photo for toffee, even though I have exactly the same equipment as anybody else. I take rubbish aerial images, and I know it. And I think we do suffer a little bit in this industry from a bit like as when digital cameras came along, suddenly every man and his dog was a wedding photographer because they could afford the digital cameras and the gear, and that shot down the value or the what people were getting for the wedding photos. But as the price went down, so did the quality. And I think we're very much in that space now, and people are beginning to bubble up to the top. You're beginning to see the same names putting out fantastic shots, and you just know they've got it. You just know they've got that skill. So
it's definitely interesting. I think so. I mean, we kind of, having worked with pilots for many years, it's interesting. Some folks definitely arc more towards the science of drone flight, and others folks tend to arc more towards the art. Those lend to different, and you know, most of the enterprise applications are a little more sciencey, right? Like, do I need to get the proper ortho mosaic, get the right GSD accuracy? But you know, folks who really know how to frame and set up a shot might be really appropriate for, you know, real estate or media and film work, or some you know, enterprise or big company applications. You just might have that art component. So it is interesting to see it kind of falls out on the science side, it falls out on the art side. But for us, like, we want to reach out to all pilots. So.
And so what would it cost me to join the DroneBase service? What do I need to pay to join this service?
I mean, $0, 0 cents.
$0.
So really, like, yeah, and yeah, no rounding on that either. No, I mean, so like, really, like, what we want to do is we want to get pilots paid to fly their drone. Like, we believe being a drone pilot should be a profession. We want to work with pilots who take their profession seriously, who've invested in their equipment and their skills and their training, and get them paid to fly their drone. I mean, that's kind of why we exist. I get a little nervous anytime we feel like we're going to build a business taking a lot of money from drone pilots. Like, our sense is that there are a lot of really big companies out there. We can take costs out of their business, provide them with great service. Those companies have a great ability to pay. That's who we typically look to monetize, right? I think for pilots, like, we think a lot about how many hours can we get you paid as a skilled laborer with this new technology, right? I view this as people, look, we desperately need new categories of skilled labor, right? I view this as one. Like, people have gone out and taken, I'm sure, some amount of risk and some amount of grief from their friends and family to, you know, start flying these drone systems, invest in that trade. And I think that what we feel good about is when we can get folks kind of compensated and get them down a career path where they feel like a skilled laborer, you know, on this technology.
So if I was to join, and I'm obsessed, well, I am a Part 107 pilot, but anyway, I'm over there, I'm a Part 107 pilot, and you say I'm not finding a lot of work, but I'm trying, and I'm submitting the jobs. I might get one or two that manage to get paid, but you'll flag me and notice that I'm trying to make my way, will you? Because it will almost, the amount of flying you do will almost be an indicator of how just your mechanical, physical, and spatial skills are going with the flying. So what I'm trying to ask you is, do you start, and it's going to be tinfoil hat time for some people, but do you start flagging people that you think, oh yeah, look, they're giving it a go, we'll keep an eye on them? Do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we think deeply about the progression of a pilot who's engaging with us and what they're getting back for that engagement. You know, I don't know if you want to speak to that, but.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, like, when a pro mission comes in, like, a customer wants a certain specific address, we will look up in our database to see which pilots do we have in that vicinity, and what kind of experience do they have that we know about. And so automatically I'll know, like, this pilot has already flown like 10 different pro missions, this pilot has flown like 20 different semi-pro missions, and this pilot hasn't done anything. And so, depending on, like, the amount of experience that the nearby pilots have, we will give the pro mission, or we'll invite the pro mission to these various pilots, and that's just realistically how the flow goes.
Yeah, and I mean,
it's very clever. It's very cool. I've not heard of anyone. I'm impressed. I'm impressed with that way of doing things, and it also means the yeah, I mean, you can almost game DroneBase by actually working, by actually going out and flying. You'll actually do better, that's very cool. That's a good idea. I like that a lot. Sorry, I'm, I'm going off at tangents, and people in the comments are talking about the augmented reality. We've nearly spoken for half an hour, and we've not even started on what we're supposed to be talking about. Now, we might wander back into the rest of the business, but why on earth do I want to build a Minecraft world in the sky? I don't see the point of that.
Well, so I've done some thinking about this. We started developing this platform called AirCraft maybe like in March of this year. So it's been in the works for 6 or 7 months now. And I think that most people, their first exposure to augmented reality in general comes in the form of like Snapchat or Instagram filters or Instagram stories. How you have like the front-facing camera on your phone looking at your face, and then you can project the ears on your head or something like that. Digital elements being placed on top of a real world. And all these applications are pretty good on a small scale because they're built for your phone, So if you're either projecting, AR on your face, or if you're using the back-facing camera on your phone, you're projecting some kind of AR on your tabletop, which is good when you're on a small scale because you can move your phone around and see the different perspectives of that AR object. It's not so good when you want to project into the real world on a large scale. Like if you have a building or something that's very large, in order to see the different perspectives of that large building, you'd have to physically walk around it, and that's going to make you tired. So it's not really good for the phone, And so that's where the drone kind of comes into play. The drone is really the perfect application of a large-scale AR device, where you just hold the drone's controller in your hands, and just by moving your thumbs, you can see all the different perspectives of this large-scale AR graphic. You can zip the drone around the block or around this virtual building or whatever it may be. And so we think that, first of all, it's a good application of consuming AR. But if you take even a step further than that, we want to allow the drone to author AR as well. What that means is where the drone is located, pretend like the drone is your real world cursor. You hit a button on your controller, and then that's where the AR graphic that you want to author gets placed into the real world, saved at those real world coordinates. And with this kind of an open-ended system, like the possibilities are really limitless. If you allow people to like create or author AR in the real world, develop their own use cases.
Yeah, and so I know it's a bit of I'm sure you want to dig in there, Gary. Like
no, I don't want to dig in. I'm just thinking, is this? I'll give you a dig. But I like what you're hearing. But is this just a bit of a vanity project then? Is this just something you'd really like, or are you really looking very far ahead?
This is a fundamental technology that's going to apply to every mission that we fly. I mean, we both profoundly believe, right? And it's the same in the military, the same for the first 5 years of the commercial drone space, right? Drones have largely been a camera in the sky, right? And we feel to get to the next increment of value, drones need to become a cursor in the sky. Like they need to become, they're the most elegant system for you to interact with your surrounding environments. So for us, for example, right? Like DroneBase, the company, like I said, we're focused on really winning the drone operation space, right? We want to just solve drone operations. If drones are just a camera in the sky, all they're ever going to do is take pretty pictures, take nadir images that form an orthomosaic map, and take images that form a 3D model. That's pretty thin, right? Like we'll have to, if that's all the drone's ever going to produce, we're going to need to start doing really heavy analytics, post-processing on all that stuff to get value there. We think we're actually in the early innings and early days of what a drone flight and a drone operation can provide. So we're all about layering in more real-time data, our customer data, allowing human context and human interaction during a drone flight. I think that's how we get to all of the next kind of use cases and applications. And that's where so much of the value is going to get built.
So is this happening in real time, or is it all post-production?
You mean the AR graphics that you see on the screen when you're, this is definitely real time. So like you will fly the drone up into the air. Our DroneBase pilot app has the DJI SDK built into it. It is taking advantage of the Unity plugin. And so Unity is the graphics engine, the game engine that most iPhone and Android games use these days. It's a 3D environment. And so we will place this 3D object inside of your Unity environment. We'll replace the background in that with your real-time video feed from the drone's camera. And that's what you have. It's a real-time AR graphic on your screen.
And because I'm just going to sort of speak to some of the things in the comments, and because it's appearing on your screen, then you're not needing goggles, as people are saying. Do you need the split screen goggles? Because if you will, the thing is, like everything else, appearing in 3D, as it were, on your device. And also, is this Android and iOS? So
iOS is released right now, so it's out in the open right now. And Android is something that's almost done. So we're going to release it very soon.
Now, all right, so obviously I said, why the Minecraft world? Because that's the video you put up. But here's my next divisive question. I can instantly see that if I had a proper building model of a 3D model of my big company new warehouse, or my new house even, because that's what I instantly saw. I've actually been trying to do this on a building plot for myself, and you come up with this app, and I thought, oh wow, if I could just make my CAD model and drop it on, then that's exactly what I've been wanting to do. Why didn't, in your, well, I'm having to dig at you now, when your promotional videos, why didn't you do that?
So that is definitely on the roadmap. That's
okay.
Use cases, and it's one of the reasons why we chose Unity in the first place as our graphics engine, is because Unity is a fairly mature graphics engine, and there are converters out there that can convert like a CAD model into the Unity environment. And so that is definitely on the roadmap. It is to come. The reason why we chose this Minecraft environment first, though, is because we needed to get something out there in the wild that is general enough so that people could use it for a wide range of projects. And then what we want to do is see how people apply this AR authoring tool for their own use cases.
Yeah.
So like the way I see it is like the drone industry as a whole right now is almost in its infancy. You know, like the use cases are just barely starting to come out. And in order to see what the truly useful use cases for a drone are, you need to put something that's highly usable, highly accessible into the hands of millions of people, and then just see how they use it to solve their own problems. Once we can see what the use cases really are, that's when we start to build more like deeper technology specifically for those use cases.
Yeah, and I think just to follow up, and I'll just share a video of this,
sure,
Gary, while we talk. But I mean, I think to Eli's point, you know, we have a lot of goals for AirCraft, right? I think the reason we started with this more open application is that professional company, we started working with enterprise customers, but really like we feel in many ways that drone hobbyists, or just everyone with a drone, are probably the biggest and also the least engaged group of pilots out there. Like they in many ways have the least to do. So I think we really wanted to have some avenue and application to reach out to that group. You know, of course, like
what's going on? So just wanted to make a quick update on the DroneBase video.
That's all right. Thank goodness. That's
I think like yeah. I mean, we clearly like have deep relationship with all of our customers. Our customers have a lot of data like CAD models, parcel boundaries, you know, roof models, etc., that we absolutely plan to deepen our relationship with them and reflect their data back to them during a drone flight. So they're very early in this.
It certainly would be a great way of laying down the power lines which you're going to inspect and have a you know, the modeled or whatever infrastructure, be it pipelines underneath the road, because it'll also be cool to know what was underneath the road, so that when you're doing the flight over the top, you could see if a hole in the ground that was opening up was perhaps linked with some infrastructure that was below the surface. There's all sorts of.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what, again, that's really Eli and my feeling is that we are in the very early days of what a drone operation can provide, what a drone flight can provide. Others are racing just to kind of build pure automation and make the human being go completely away. And we're taking very much the opposite approach, I'd say. We really value what the human can bring. We value the human kind of context. And we really feel like getting to that drone as a cursor, having that data, and letting a human continue to add their ingenuity, their kind of context and understanding during a flight, what the future looks like, than someone just kind of hitting a button, walking away, and having no human in the loop at all.
Really, that's a very interesting viewpoint. I'm not sure I'm on the same team as you with that, because I think 99% of the infrastructure inspections are going to be drones in a box before very long. My brother if you've watched our normal show, you'll have heard me said this before. My brother does up historic buildings in the UK, and it's going to speak to your point. And he doesn't use drones, and the reason he doesn't use drones is he continually tells me the drone, and even somebody looking at images afterwards, cannot do as good a job inspecting the roof and surrounds of a historic building as a bloke in a bucket being swung around by a crane, because he's bringing the human context and the massive processing power and knowledge required to actually look properly at a thing. And I think there is a bit of an you're not in Silicon Valley, are you? So I can diss Silicon Valley. Yeah, there's a bit of a little bit of a disconnect with what problems people perceive need solving as against what really needs to be solved.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a great insight of yours. Like, that is the truth. Like, Silicon Valley generally like hates human beings, right? They love computers and hate human beings. And that if you have to go to pure automation, I'm not saying if you need to get an ortho mosaic map, automate it, right? You need to do an orbit radius of 20 meters, automate it. But you cannot put a human in the loop. You get to just a couple of local maximas. You don't get to every use cases or even the more interesting eventual use cases. So I think that the kind of hunger for the Silicon Valley investors they hate anything that involves a human being. So you tend to see way too many venture-backed solutions that are pure automation. What we find is that we think a human and a drone are very powerful together. Human alone, not so powerful. Drone alone, not so powerful. It's kind of through their interaction is where we get to the most interesting use cases, right? So that's what we think about a lot, is not necessarily is automation coming. It is coming, right? But what is value-added task a human being can do that may not be even flying the drone, right? But like, what is the highest value-added task that human can do during a flight? I think that's going to get to all of the interesting use cases. And honestly, for us, and again, just maybe to finish the point, like, we probably just wouldn't be excited to come to work every day and try to put all of our pilots out of a job. So that's just our point.
You're swimming against the tide a little bit, then. You're not going with the flow.
We're attacking in a different direction.
Yes, good answer.
Just to restate, though, like, we are not anti-automation at all. I don't want to say that we're swimming against the tide, we are against automation. That is not the case. We're not anti-automation at all. It's just that we value the flexibility at this stage in the drone industry. We value a flexible drone pilot platform. Where
the little bit of the automation thing is where we're getting a lot of new 107 pilots are suddenly learning now that they can't actually make a map. You do actually need to have, in most countries in the world, if you measure between 2 points on Mother Earth or in the sky or whatever, I guess, and somebody is going to use that data, that measurement, to action something, then it needs to be truth, and someone needs to have gone and done a course and got the skills to do it. And that's where surveyor brings that human skill set of checks and balances to the task, as would a human in the loop for lots of other vegetation indexes, studies, I should think, down power lines. Yes, the machine will tell you 90% of it, of what's happening, but you'll still need someone to go, oh, actually, that's because we're a long way off from that. So I'm ranting. I'm taking it off to one side a little bit. I'm sorry, but it's refreshing.
That's right. Like, for the well-defined, highly repeatable tasks, maybe those should be automated. I totally agree, and it just makes it easier for everybody. But there's a lot of tasks that they are new and they require like human intuition. Like if Associated Press says, we need videos of the damage of the hurricanes that are hitting all over the place, you know, like that's not something that automation would do well at. You know, a human being would know this scene is representative of the damage in the area. You know, that's something that, you know, we do need a pilot to do.
Or for your brother, right? I mean, it's like what I think we think probably more about is like, how do we let his knowledge and his expertise flow through during that drone flight, right? And even if, again, maybe he's not even on the sticks, right? But how do we let his expertise flow through so he can interact with, input things, like apply his ingenuity during that flight to make things more real time? And again, how do we bring his incredible value add and leverage that to a drone flight or to a drone operation, not remove it entirely?
I think we're probably a little bit of a cusp in the way that things like buildings and stuff is going to change. I think the swarm is going to do it very soon. We're just going to get through the regulatory issue of one pilot, multiple drones. That's going to take a little bit of a while, but I think the way you're going to collect that data and then how you crunch it down is about to undergo another sea shift, another change. And I also think the companies that make it out of 2018 are probably going to be the companies that stick around for a while. And I can see a few that aren't going to make it out of 2018 already, based on the false hope and promises of. That's why SES News, we used to on the show just throw dice to come up with our industry numbers, you know, come up with 5 random numbers and then just put them together, and that is going to be the value of quad motors for this month, because that's how a lot of it is. And an awful lot of people have based their business decisions on some very, very dodgy reports. I'll wind the clock a little bit back to you saying a lot of the use cases are still being found. I think you'll find Australia's found an awful lot of them. An awful lot of if you want to try and be successful, I think in this industry, just see who's been successful in Australia, because they've had enough time to work out, and they've had enough people go out of business to work out what goes wrong. And then after that, you'd say the UK and things like that. But then to come back in your defense, I'll also agree that I think there are a lot of applications where there's going to be many where as soon as it's done, as soon as a builder like my brother or somebody that lays roads or something like that says, well, why don't we do that? We'll all say, oh yeah, why did we never do that? And there's going to be loads of so obvious things that Silicon Valley and all the people that have been thinking too much about this just haven't thought about. And yeah, you're right, those are still coming. I'm ranting at you. I'm sorry, I'm ranting at you. Let's look at the
Look, yeah, I think that we've all thought long and hard about I think we've all thought long and hard about this. And just for Eli and myself, I think that's what excites us, is kind of transforming this more into a cursor in the sky. As automation kind of takes shape and takes its role, how do we allow that outlet for human creativity, ingenuity, and just human input during a drone flight? We think that's a shining path that's going to yield a lot of interesting results.
Well, if you believe all the reports of robots taking all the jobs everywhere for everything, if you can get more human interaction into anything, you'll be able to sell. That'll be worth a fortune. What are you selling? Oh, we're selling human interaction. It's going out of fashion, but we've still got some. You'll be then you quick. We need to write that down, and we need to get humaninteraction.com. I need to do that now. Yeah.
All right.
Let's have a look. You always need personnel as long as technology lags behind nature. For example, compare how long an albatross can fly. Quad batteries and processing power at present dictate human involvement. I think I'm going to disagree with you there, Ray. I think we are the kinetic Zephyr only landed in 2010 on after its 2-week flight because it ran out of range time, and it landed with loads of battery left. So that was 2 weeks in the air. What's hampering that sort of thing is regulation. I think at the moment, if we got regulation knocked out of the way, we'd have long range platforms. But then technology will actually be an issue, because how do you keep a camera alive for that long? And you've got to make sure it's still, whatever sensor's still working for that hugely long flight. Just also try and look at the comments to see what I've missed. So, what's the minimum specification for a smartphone to run this? What iPhone model is needed, bare minimum?
I assume you're talking about AirCraft, the AR platform?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, so this has been a challenge for the engineering team. It's one of the reasons why it took as long as it did to release. Because AR is such a processor-intensive, also memory-intensive task, it works well on the more modern like iPhones, like the iPhone 10, the iPhone 8 and 7. They work great. On 6S and the iPhone 6, we did make it so that it does work on those phones, but you may get some degraded performance on there. So, but that has been like a very big priority for us, and so we've done everything under the sun to like optimize our performance on those platforms. We've been also in close contact with DJI directly, how to make their SDK run more efficiently, and for memory. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that.
Sorry, I was just going to say, you're actually going to be one of the apps that might run on the Crystal Sky, or is it still only just going to be theirs?
Yes, I mean, I'm sure that's a conversation we'll have. So I think that probably runs on the Android backend. We'll give you more updates on that soon.
Because I know Crystal Sky owners are looking for other things to do with their Crystal Skies. I believe that's becoming a bit of a thing. We've nearly spoken for an hour. That's amazing. What have I missed? Is there anything else you guys would like to get out to the world while we're here?
Well, I mean, if people want to find more information about this aircraft platform, the URL to go is dronebase.com/AR, and they can see a landing page of our aircraft platform. Also, they could just go to the App Store and download the DroneBase Pilot app and put it on their iPhones and take their drones out for a spin. We'd love to see like what people are creating. I think that would be highly enlightening for us all.
And the money earning side of things, if people want to, they'll also go to dronebase.com, I guess, and find out how to do that and sign up. And
yeah, just download the DroneBase Pilot app. We'll have some initial you can take a look at activities and missions we have around you, and we'll start to get some information and start a good dialogue with you from there. And yeah, it's great to connect with your audience, and we read and follow SAS News, and appreciate your realistic and honest perspective on this.
Yeah, it's a tricky world, isn't it? it's a tricky world. There are plenty of people out there that want to take your hard-earned cash and really inflated expectations, which is a pity. But I'm glad that the Gartner Hype Curve, we're on the trough of disillusionment.
But that's when the real value is.
Exactly. So it's perfect. It's perfect that we're there because it's about to happen properly. So just put your heads down, everybody. Make it through 2018, 2019. It'll all be all right. It'll all be fine. Just look there. Oh, I know what I was going to ask you before we go. So I said make it through 2018, 2019. Where's DroneBase going to be in 2020? Where do you see? Where would you like to be? What would you, other than very wealthy, etc., etc.?
I mean, and I'll let Eli think about this too. I mean, what we want, we feel like, again, like that central problem is that there's still nothing to do with your drone. I would love if for drone pilots, you turn on your drone and you come to DroneBase for stuff to do, right? That could be a technical, professional, challenging mission. That could be a more open, creative, artistic flight. Or you could be using your drone as a cursor in the sky to build a racetrack to fly with your friends. I think that what we want is for the drone to feel like a daily integral part of our lives. You know, not a nice to have thing you fly once a quarter, not a piece of health, but a daily practice, an integral tool to your professional, creative, and fun life. I think that's the world that we want to live in Eli.
Yeah, I mean, in 2 or 3 years, like, we will increasingly have more drone missions to fly, a variety of them. And for the hobbyists, that will include like more innovative, more intricate ways to author AR in the sky. Right now, it's a little bit hard because your drone is limited to a 20-minute battery. And so you can't stay in the air very long. So authoring AR content in the sky may involve the desktop. It's on the desktop. And so you'll see this content won't be just locked to DroneBase, and it won't just be locked to drone pilots. You'll see this opened up to third parties as well, so that you'll see lens apps out there that point their phones into the sky, and even without a drone, they're able to see all the content that drone pilots have created. For
that's kind of the AR sort of utopia, isn't it? You know, I build my virtual building in a building plot I've got, and then my neighbors, instead of going to the planning application where we're just looking on a bit of paper, and then we've got to maybe look at some nice renderings, but they can walk around the phone and they can really work out how to complain to the local building guys about the building that I'm about to put up. You know, maybe it could be part of the whole planning process that you have to build that AR building.
That's right.
Local residents can then do that. I've been very excited. I can see AR coming into our world in all sorts of ways, as a situational awareness tool, just as a pilot operator. Very very useful. Other aircraft, you know, just what's going on, other hazards. You know, you could put a train on the train track. You know it's coming, but you could flag a warning up, and you could put it up in the distance as a big train or something. You know, whatever. You could change the scale of things in order to allow them. You know, if it's really going to hit you, then it gets bigger in your screen. Anyway, it's limitless. I was going to flip back.
We should come to Los Angeles. Let's spend some time together.
well, you can just come to Africa. We can also do that here. It's
absolutely.
What was I was going to say? Oh yes. So for the racing people, some of the racing pilot just got. Oh, hang on, I'm going to read this. Just got 107. Saving for a DJI to make this into a career. Love the idea to log my experience. Well, MF Boom, I think you should what you should do, dear MF Boom, the viewer, is you should use this app. You should see if it works, and then you should come and tell us. I think that's exactly what you should do, and see if it does make any difference. And then what I think
actually you should use the app. It will work. You should build a race course, and if it's great, we can put it anywhere else in the world you want.
So
I was going to ask about,
and I have determined that it works. And so now I'm telling him that it works and that he should do it.
No, but I think he wants to earn money on the 107 time.
Okay.
But I was gonna. That does speak to my thing. So if I built a race course, how does somebody else see it to race? So the two of us can race.
I have to have 2 people that are both on the DroneBase pilot app, and they both are using DJI drones. And then they're both logged into the AirCraft platform, and they should both be able to see the same content. So that's how.
Yeah, anything you create, every other pilot can see. So if you build something over your house, your neighbors fly their drone, they would see it and can race through it.
So I could put a big expletive deletive above my house for other pilots to see from very far away.
I knew this would come up. At least for our first version, we will rely upon the community to report these sort of things to us, which we can delete from our end. We hope that pilots will behave themselves, but I am very curious to see what they will do. Honestly, that's why we didn't from V1, we did not put any programmatic safeguards into this, because for the first version, I just want to see what pilots will do. If it turns out that they start to abuse the system, that is the time when we will start to think about how to fix those problems.
I'm just going to say to Zoltan, I love the cube, the Pixel 2 cube. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But that's another. So we'll have a complete, well, maybe not complete program about that, but we'll have the guys that built that on. It's a great controller, and it also speaks to the fact that, you know, you're saying everyone should have a drone and you know, fly every day and all that sort of thing. 5 years ago, or 10, 20 odd years ago when I started, that would have been really hard, just to think that you'd have a thing that you could take out and pretty much, as long as it's not blowing a gale or howling with rain, you could pretty much fly every day. But we moved to a point where the ability to go out and fly, it's a given. You can go out and get that data, or capture that stuff. So we have moved into another place, and this is the place where somebody will say, why didn't you inspect all the manhole covers and come up with the obvious idea? Because it's a doable thing. I've ranted out of it. Oh, Jolly Blighty. Yes, I am from Jolly Blighty, Ray, but I escaped. Anyway, but I've been here 30 years. You probably wouldn't know it. Right, so chaps, we're going into rants, looking at comments. I think I've covered everyone's comments. MF Boom, I would really love it if you do indeed download this app and then email me, Gary@susnews.com, perhaps after a month or so, and tell us your honest experience. We'll see if these snake oil salesmen are telling the truth here. We'll see what really goes. I'm sure.
Brutally honest feedback is welcome.
But no, be interesting.
Taking to heart.
It'd be very, very interesting. It's Dan and Eli. That's who it is, Ray. And MF Boom. Cool. I'm glad you're doing that, gentlemen. Thank you very, very much for taking the time to join us. I think for what is for you this afternoon. It's a very interesting new world that you're opening up. Well done for being first to market with this, and I'm sure you will be gleaning a lot of information. And I really look forward to the building video, the grown-up flying around a building video. What's that? Everyone's going mad about the new Apple building, aren't they? You could build that somewhere else. You could build that in VR somewhere else in a really terrible neighborhood or something, and then make a fly around video of the new Apple building where you weren't expecting it, around the White House or something like that. But anyway, I move aside. Thank you very, very much for taking the time to join us. Dear viewers, thank you as well, wherever you are in the world. Don't forget to join us at 2100 every Tuesday for our normal hangout, where I will give Bruce yet more abuse. And with that, I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Guys, thanks very much. Cheers.
Thank you so much for having us. Have a great night.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. And you. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.